Alright, so this is what I've been working on with the Rings project, and I haven't really been making videos or streams with it because it's not super interesting to watch. Um, so I have here, Diablo 2 1.06. I've already recorded the affixes from A, B, C, D, E, F, and I have G, H, I left to go. So what I'm going to show you here is the process that I've been doing. And at first, I was like, oh, all resist plus 15, and then I click here, and then I scroll down and I find all resist 15, and I add one to the column for this is row G, even though it's not labeled. Uh, and then I would click it back open, and every time, plus 23 mana. And so then I would come here and I would say, okay, 21 to 30 mana gets one. This one is marked in orange because it's ambiguous. I have 21 to 30 mana, but I also have plus mana in the suffixes, 21 to 30 mana. So was that a prefix or a suffix? Or was it like 6 to 10 mana plus, 11 to 20 mana? And I don't know. And so these are marked in orange. And when I put the data for um, how many times each affix showed up relative to the others, I exclude everything that showed up as orange. The most interesting one that gets excluded is poison resist 11 to 20 because this prefix shows up twice for rings, and the results indicate that that's actually true. Here I have 53 times I've had a poison resist 11 to 20, and the things that only have one possible affix generating them are about half of that. We can see here the average suffix or average prefix gets 24.375 results so far, and this one had 53, so twice as many. Um, and like, okay, well, was that this one or this one? I don't know. Um, and the data that I'm collecting, I'm trying to see just in general, because this was rolled from multiple maps, um, what are the percentages that each affix is going to roll? Does it have preference for one over the other? And the results seem to be that each affix has an equal chance of spawning in general. There may be some slight issues there, but in general, from a casual player's perspective and from my own perspective, even though I wouldn't really say I'm a casual player, um, nothing really stands out as like, oh, it loves this affix, or oh, it never ever picks this one. I think I'll probably try to run some statistics tests on the results, but I think it's going to find that this is pretty normal. And the medians for the prefixes and the medians for the suffixes were very close to zero, so it was not like skewed heavily in one way or another. And so anyway, I was recording the data and like looking at the ring and then clicking off and then finding the ring back because clicking off moves the mouse and the window minimizes. And now I have a better way to do it. I have the my 1.06b folder open, and I take a screenshot of the ring, and then I watch the slider bar here to make sure it moved. And once it moves, then I can take a screenshot of the next ring. Because if I just go as fast as I can press the screenshot button, it's still trying to take the screenshot of the previous ring, and it will skip some. And I want to make sure I get all of the rings in my data set. And I've basically concluded that each affix has an equal chance of spawning, but for the sake of completeness, I'm going to continue with mules G, H, and I anyway. I really do not like doing this, and so a big part of why I haven't been making videos lately is like, well, the video that I'm going to make is doing this ring stuff. I'll just not. And so there's only been live streams. And then when I'm done, you'll see I'm going to look at the screenshots, scroll through them all, and just make sure no rings seem to be missing. And then the next step, once I'm done with all this, is going to be to run one map only without re-rolling the map until I have like 40 or 60 rings, and then collect the data from those rings and see if a map has preference for certain affixes. I suspect that it will. But it's only a suspicion. Perhaps a superstition. Because I felt like that was the case when I was gambling boots and pelts. However, oftentimes feelings over the course of long periods of time with relation to item generation are not accurate. So then I scroll through 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, count to 4, make sure I get 4 in each column. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Right, so I did manage to get every ring, and so I'll scroll back through to the first one. These are just old screenshots. Probably those are, many of those were probably YouTube thumbnails. And then I will hide these columns and begin the somewhat tedious process of copying over the affixes. Does this? Okay, then I put that button, so now it's always on top. Okay, I already got the first two, so 5 strength is a suffix. 11 magic find. Magic find is one of the orange columns because I have magic find here and I have magic find here. So it's unclear whether it's a prefix or a suffix. Sometimes you can determine based, because you can see, oh, it already had 3 prefixes, so this one must be the suffix. But since I can't determine every time, I just leave all of the information as ambiguous. And then I just go through and mark everything. Oops. Poison resist 18. Lightning resist 42. Fire resist 37. 13 dexterity. Yeah, so this is just going to be probably me saying affixes out loud as I record them. And then at the end, I'll show like that graph that I showed at the beginning with the new data added. Because I always look. Lightning resist 46. So there I turned a 1 into a 2 by manually typing the number 2. One interesting thing is that the 2 minimum damage is a higher level than 3 minimum damage. It's kind of weird. And then this column, this is how many affixes are in that affix group, except for there's one error somewhere. Somewhere I have like a 4 that should be a 5, I think. But anyway. All res. 13 poison resists. Mostly I'm just making this video to show, like, hey, how come you haven't posted in a while? Well, not wanting to do this is why I've not been posting. For the most part. It would be easy to say, like, oh, you know, I've been busy with the holidays. And while I did do family stuff for the holidays, that's not really the reason. Light radius is one of the ambiguous columns with the orange marking. Half freeze duration, I always have trouble finding. For some reason, I think half freeze duration is gray, but it's white on the column, and so I always struggle to find it. We have a big cold front coming through tonight. Magic. But since I started doing this as screenshots instead of clicking into the game, this process is much faster. What am I looking at? Poison length reduced. I'm considering like a similar way that I made a big push to finish the rings, to do a push like a video every day or most days of the 1.0 playthrough to level 92 to finish that guy up, so I can start using him for other things. $34 life. 4 light radius. So here I have a 3 and the prefix light radius of 1. And so now the data is, you can see an example of how I cannot know for sure on these orange rated affixes because a 3 could be 3 or it could be 1 and 2. Let's see, did I mark the fire already? No. Wait, what? I marked the poison resist? Okay, so that was a mistake. Fire resist 15. 2 to minimum damage. And I guess there might be slight inaccuracies in my data collection since it's all manual. Like I just confused myself and may have made one of the numbers incorrect just now. But in general, I don't think it's going to matter a whole lot to the total data set if there's a few small errors here and there. Another 4 light radius. "66 mana," I'll mark as 60 and a 6. 5 maximum stamina, I think, is a prefix. And the part of the results for each affix having an equal chance of spawning, or very close to equal chance of spawning, that's most interesting to me is that it's not divided by group, like affix group. It's divided strictly, each affix has an equal chance of spawning. So that's kind of the information that I was looking to find. Not necessarily that result, but just that information by doing this process. Excuse me. Let's see, probably the most common suffix result will be +1 to dexterity, because this gives +1 to dexterity, and this gives +1 or 2. It doesn't ever give 3 because of this column, a bug where it can't give the maximum value for that affix. And so either one of these gives +1 to dexterity. This, I think, 50% of the time, and of course this one 100% of the time. So either that or there's another thing, the 1 light radius and 1 mana. Both will show up more than you would expect. Cast rate is suffix. Light radius. But how many light radii? 1 light radii. Life steal. Life replenish. So here's 6 light radius, so I know it's a 5 and a 1. Oops. But I don't always know if it's 2 affixes or 1 affix. Where that will appear the most is in the mana. Where I don't know if it's 1 affix or 2. And so far, I think in a group of 52, I think is how many rings are here? Or 58, whichever one it is, however many rings each guy has, every affix has spawned at least once. Or been marked at least once. And I don't really want to start collecting new sets of rings until after I've finished marking all of this data. And then I will go ahead and just roll on one map, like I said, 40 or 60 rings, and see if it has a preference for a particular affix or group of affixes. And if it does, then I will try to find a map that likes Magic Find, or the other Magic Find, or All Resists, or Cast Rate. And then run that map for a long time until I find the ring I want, which is 30 Magic Find or better and faster cast rate. And All Resists was not in that list of rings that I'm trying to find, but if I find a map that likes them, then I think it would be silly to not try to find a good ring with that affix. Or at least try. Maybe I already said try? Who knows? Not me. Five light radii. Which could be a 3 and a 2. But I mark it as 5. The other thing that I will, data that I will collect from this set is how many affixes spawned compared to the item level of the ring, to see if any of the zones, Arcane Sanctuary or Act 4 or the High Council, let's see, Poison Resist 24, had better chances of spawning 6 affixes. And then if they did, I would only run those areas. Light Radius 2 could be a 1 and a 1. Except in this case it can't be because I have 6 affixes showing, so it must be 2. I mean, 1 affix plus 2 light radius. Nine life. So it must be 2 light radius affix. So I guess what I meant. 1 mana per kill. That's here. Two light radii. We have a cold front coming through right now, so if you hear the thunder, that's what's happening. The temperature is going to go from about 70, about 70 to about 30 in the next 14 hours or so. Okay, I just did max round damage, so now I gotta put the gold find. Poison resist 12. 1 mana. 39 life. Which is the max roll for life. And 3 max round damage. .72 attack rating. 36 mana. 2 minimum damage. Poison next reduced is down here. I think probably my most preferred affix to find a map that leans heavily towards that affix would be the cast rate. "14 mana. Gold find. Lots of gold find in this group. And while it looks like there's lots of Drake's 21 to 30 mana, this will likely include some combinations of prefixes and suffixes that add 21 to 30. Also does not account for the fact that there is a second affix that entirely overlaps 21 to 30 mana. Mm, 38 life. One away from perfect. Damage reduced by 1. Mana. Dexterity and hold find again. And so here I marked everything as a prefix. So the light radius might have been a suffix. The mana might have been a suffix. The mana might have been both a prefix and a suffix combined together to add to 4. So that's a good example of how some of this data, the ones that I've marked orange, are ambiguous and can't really be used directly in my results. Only 4 rings left to record. So far, I haven't had anything with fire damage. So I might get, I think, my first result of an affix spawning 0 times in a set of... Oh, that's interesting. So this one, plus 20, I know for sure is a combination of prefix and suffix. It can't be here, 11 to 15, 21 to 30. It can't be here, 11 to 20, because it has the n-1 bug. So the maximum result is 1 less than what the group is labeled as. And yet, I just marked it as 11 to 20. So yeah, there's a... Mana, plus mana, is marked in orange. For like the 7th time I've told you that. But that was, I think, the best example of why. All resist, and then 12 poison resists. And 4 dexterity. So then I will add here, this is the sums of all the affixes from each mule together. So I'm just going to add the newest row. And then I copy, look at that 40, it's a real standout. I copy everything that's not orange and paste them here. And then same thing. And then this is the average result of all the suffixes, and this is the average result of all the prefixes. It's normal to expect the prefixes to appear more times on average than the suffixes because there are more suffixes to draw from. And so in a case where you have a 6 affix ring, the suffixes have like less chances to be picked. So here is the picture of how far each suffix is away from the average result of suffixes. There's some that appear, it looks like 11 times, 11 more times than normal. Whatever this one is, and whatever this one is. I don't normally look, but since I'm doing this, that's a gold find has appeared more than normal. And there was another one that should be 36, 3 to maximum damage. And then the prefixes. I have this one here that it seems to appear more than normal, but I suspect that if I run statistics on it, instead of just like looking at it and like, oh, that's too much, it probably turns out to be perfectly fine. When I have every mule together, like when I've got the data for every mule, then I'll run a chi-squared test and see if anything stands out. And then what else do I look at? This is the number of affixes in a group compared to how many times each affix showed up. And then I also have the affix level versus how many times they show up. And I think that none of these really show any bias towards a particular affix or level or whatever at all. And that it really is that each affix has just an equal chance of spawning. Or very close to. So anyway, that's what I've been working on when I'm not live streaming. I'm not really playing, I'm only doing this data stuff, and I don't like doing it, so I haven't really been doing it a lot. And so there's been a lot of days where I just don't do anything video game related. Yeah, that's that. What's this? Apparently this group had 0. So Mule F had 0, 21 to 40 attack ratings. Interesting. It's a great way to end.